John Scott Adler. I was curious if you had any opinions, theories, or done any research on the origins of Hubbard's demon circuits in Dianetics. These endless engram loops that are supposedly part of the analytic mind are interesting and different conceptually from the classic engram reactive mind stuff that supposedly is what dogs humans. I was hoping you can explain them to me in your clear, logical way because I have never heard any other theories except the psychological view of the unconscious on where these patterns come from. Okay, well, I was talking about studying the brain, so let's talk about the brain a little bit. Not too much, though, because here's the thing. Nobody really knows the answer to your question. And I'm one of those people who just doesn't know. So I'm going to say that straight up. Now, as far as theories or anything goes, I'm going to go along with what I've read, which is this. There are a great number of things going on in your brain right now that you have absolutely no awareness of at all. Nor will you ever. And I'm not just talking about the autonomic nervous system, which runs your heart and your lungs and your intestines. Like, did you know that there are down here something on the order of millions, tens of millions of neurons firing around, keeping this whole system going that you didn't know anything about? Like, that just happens in your body all day, every day, and you don't know anything about it. Well, there's all kinds of thoughts that are happening in your head that you don't know about. And there are some that you only find out about late in the game. For example, demon circuits. All right, so this is what Hubbard talks about, how you can wall off a part of the analytical mind that the reactive mind is kind of controlling because of an engram, and it walls off parts of the analyzer, and they just kind of go in these infinite loops of phrases or songs or speeches or things you've heard or things you've seen or things you've smelled or whatever. They just kind of keep going and coming back around, and you have no control over these things. And only by going clear and wiping out your reactive mind do you free up these, what Hubbard calls encysted, right? They're cysts, right, of analytical mind get freed up again, and you then have more analyzer available to you to compute and think with, okay? In Hubbard's model, that's how it works. Well, Hubbard's model is pretty much nonsense, but I just wanted to explain that to start with. Let's say you're going to work one day. I mean, one of the classic examples of demon circuits that you might be familiar with in a more day-to-day existence are earworms, right? Songs that go on, things you're hearing in your head over and over again, and you can't figure out why. Well, here's the deal, right? There's a lot of parts of your brain that are firing off or doing very, very specific things. There's little mechanisms, right, that just do a very specific thing, and they do it really well. And you have thousands of these things going all the time. So one of those things is having to hear songs in your head. So let's say you hear a song on the radio on the way to work, or at home, you're cooking and you hear a song on, or you hear it on TV or something, and then for seemingly no good reason, an hour later, you find yourself continuing to hear it. And then you go to bed and you wake up and it's still going. And it's driving you a little nuts, right? Well, there's a part of your brain that is constantly listening. Constantly. And when it hears a song, if it's heard it before and it knows the song, it starts filling in the song. It predicts where the song's going. And it starts playing it in your head. And it doesn't particularly stop on its, just because you tell it to stop. And again, I'm trying to make the point that there's a lot going on under the hood, and some of this stuff bubbles up in unexpected ways, random ways, it almost seems. I mean, there is some explanation for it. We just don't know what it is yet. But for whatever random reason, this stuff bubbles up into our awareness, and then suddenly we're like, oh, where did that come from? Well, it came from your brain. It came from the same place that you figure out 2 + 2 is 4 and, what you want to have for dinner. I mean, these same computations are happening in the same place. But this one is not necessarily something that is under your active control, and so it just sits there doing what it thinks it's supposed to be doing, which is playing this song for predictive purposes so that you know what's coming. Okay, that's just one theory. I'm literally just making that up as far as the business of it's playing it for predictive purposes. But we do know that the brain is always listening, and we do know that it does turn these things on and keep them going. So, and that it's whatever the off switch is for that, we don't have that figured out yet. So we've only got this much figured out, and it's a little frustrating when you don't have the off switch figured out on some of this stuff. But we do know that the mechanisms of it have to do with modules or mechanisms in the brain is a good way to phrase it. And that's what I can say about that. So I hope that was somewhat useful. And there you go.